What's up guys, my name is Ace, and with Black Ops 4 coming in about a month and a half and the Blackout beta starting in about 2 weeks, I feel now is a good time to start reflecting on CoD World War II. Last year with Infinite Warfare, we did a format on the channel where I did 2 videos, one video talking about what I feel they did right, and another video talking about what I feel they did wrong. That format seemed to work quite well, so we're going to be sticking to that this year with CoD World War II, and as you can see from the title, this video is talking about what I feel CoD World War II did right. Everything we're going to be focusing on today is going to be the positive things that I like from CoD World War II. I want to be very clear that there is still a video coming talking about what they did wrong, and I do have a fairly long list of that, so for anybody looking at this video saying, oh my god, this guy's such a sellout because he's only saying good things, that's the purpose of this video, is to say nice things about CoD World War II, and then we'll have another video where I really tear into it and share all the things I didn't like about the game. So let's hop into the list here. A couple things to keep in mind though, this is going to be focusing on multiplayer only because that's what I play. I'm not really into zombies, not really into campaign. It's all about multiplayer. And also, it's really in no particular order. I've just been kind of jotting things down as I've been thinking of them, and we're just going to be flying through that list. So first up, in my opinion, one of the best things that CoD World War II did this year is their events system. I really like the fact that they had consistent events throughout the entire year with brand new content coming out. Whether or not we like that content too much, the fact that they had the events and they were so steady, we always had another event to look forward to shortly after the previous event ended. I thought this was amazing for Call of Duty. I really liked this. It really kept me engaged throughout the year for much longer than I would have been with previous Call of Duty games, because normally without these events, I would have been done playing this game a long time ago, but these events kept me coming back for more. They kept me interested, they kept me engaged, and honestly, as a YouTuber as well, it's been extremely helpful to have these events because there's always something new to talk about. Most years with Call of Duty, I've found that once we get about 8 or 9 months in, it gets pretty difficult to come up with new and unique ideas, aside from like live commentaries, and I often focus my attention on live commentaries towards the end of a Call of Duty's life cycle, and I haven't even had time to fit in very many live commentaries with CoD World War II because there's always something happening, always something changing, always something that's being added, there's new events and new content always coming out. And even though I said this list is in no particular order, this is the number one thing that does stand out in my mind that I feel CoD World War II did great. And I really hope, and it actually kind of looks like based on leaks, that this is the direction that Call of Duty is going to take for the future. Moving on to the next point, this one sort of piggybacks on the last one. This is just in general how they included post-launch weapons and how accessible they made those weapons for people that played the game on at least a semi-regular basis. I really like the fact that every single gun, not every variant, but every single gun that was added to this game, there was opportunity to get that gun for free. No COD points necessary, no supply drop luck necessary. You simply save up your armory credits and you get it. And if you miss the events or you don't have the large amount of armory credits to buy it during the event, then at some point down the road after the events, they've given us a contract for the gun, so you can get it for about 5,000 armory credits, which is much cheaper and very realistic for even a casual player. Unlike Black Ops 3, for instance, where I still feel completely helpless when it comes to getting those new guns, I've given up on them completely, and I always feel like, oh great, they added a new weapon that I'll never get to use. When they add new guns to World War II, it's exciting because there are direct avenues to earn that gun. Now, is the system completely perfect and the most consumer-friendly system you could possibly imagine? No, it's not. Activision makes literally billions of dollars off of post-launch sales on things like COD points, and therefore they do have that obligation to their shareholders to balance the business side of it with the consumer friendliness side of it. And I feel like overall World War II did a pretty good job of finding that balance. I haven't spent a penny on COD points this year, and I very comfortably earned every single gun in the game, keeping in mind, of course, I have a slightly higher than average playtime, although not a completely ridiculous playtime by any means like some people out there, but I think the overall system of them adding guns was quite reasonable this time around. This brings us to the next point, which once again kind of relates to the previous point. This is the contracts and orders. I really like the idea of having daily contracts, daily orders, things that you can grind for every day, things that keep you engaged every day. I love the fact that we had that throughout the entire year. Now, as for some of the individual challenges for those orders and contracts, I'll be talking about that in the What They Did Wrong video, because I definitely don't agree with some of the specific challenges. But just the fact that they had those contracts and orders to work towards that awarded you with things like supply drops and armory credits and social score, I thought that was excellent, and I really hope this remains a staple in Call of Duty. Next up on my list, I have the War Game Mode. I really enjoyed the War Game Mode back in the day. I'll be honest, I don't really play it too much anymore because it does get fairly repetitive because it's so linear. But for the first several months of this game being out, I played the War Mode a ton. Like, probably just as much as I played regular game modes, I was playing War, and I really enjoyed myself with it. I like the fact that they completely eliminated kill-death ratio, so that wasn't even on your mind at all. You could just push for objectives, you could get a ton of kills, a ton of score, you could work on your camos really easily in that mode. And I thought it was a really interesting and unique take. I love the fact that War was there. Again, there is also another side to the War Game Mode that I'll be talking about what they did wrong. But in general, when I think back to how much enjoyment I got out of the War Game Modes, I'm quite happy that they tried something new and they included it in this game. Moving on to something that's a bit more gameplay related, this is the overall weapon variety and weapon balance. While the weapon balance may not be 100% where I'd like it to be, and there's a few changes that I personally would make, overall, at least at this point in the game's life cycle, I don't really have any major complaints with weapon balance in this game. Of course, there's always going to be those meta guns, those top tier guns that people tend to gravitate towards, but I feel comfortable branching outside of those meta guns and using pretty much any primary weapon and excelling with that gun. This to me is a sign of good weapon balance. Now, was it always good? No, there were definitely times throughout the life cycle where there were some clear balancing issues, but Sledgehammer has been doing a good job throughout the year of actively addressing those things and changing things up to become more balanced. I'm sure not everybody's going to agree with me here. There's always going to be those complaints about weapon balance. But like I said, I feel like I can pick up pretty much any primary weapon and do just fine with it. I can excel with it. I can hold my own against those meta weapons. No problem. This brings us to the next point for what CoD World War II did right, in my opinion. And this is just generally not being afraid to completely overhaul the game. Now with this, of course, I'm referring to the big Divisions update, where the game pretty much completely pivoted in a different direction, and I think that direction was much better than the direction it was heading in before that update. This big change was due to the change in leadership at Sledgehammer. Condry was now gone, and the new leadership took over, and finally they started listening to us. You're going to hear a lot from me in the What They Did Wrong video about the beginning of the game's life cycle, the first several months, because in those first several months, I feel like it was a pretty big mess. I still adapted to the game and I found enjoyment in the game, but there were a lot of complaints that I had. But once we got that Divisions update, things started heading in the right direction, in my opinion. It's really a shame that the game didn't launch in that state, that Divisions update state, because if it did, I feel like it would have been much more successful throughout the year. This brings us to the next point, which is communication. Once again, this does relate to the change in leadership, I feel, because before that change in leadership, communication was not that great with Sledgehammer. I feel like it shifted from the developers telling us how it is and basically explaining to us how we're wrong. It shifted more from that to a dialogue, to a conversation, and we had weekly community updates for the most part. Of course, they skipped a few weeks here and there, but I really like the idea of implementing that weekly community update. So at least there's some sort of communication. We get some kind of an indication of what's going on and what's on the developers' minds, what they're working on, what they're thinking about. And this is something that I really hope the other CoD developers take note of. So Treyarch and Infinity Ward, I would love to see weekly community updates from them as well. Moving on to the next point, something that I did like about this game is there was a lot to grind for. There was a lot of challenges to grind for. You could prestige your divisions, you could prestige your weapons, you could go for that chrome camo, and you could go for chrome tiger camo on top of that. I feel there was always something that you could be working towards. Now the rewards for those, that's a different story, and that's going to end up in the What They Did Wrong video, I feel, or at least partially. But I did like the fact that there was always some sort of challenge that you could work toward if you wanted to. Next up, something that I really like that Sledgehammer did this year, and we have seen this in previous years with Call of Duty as well, but I like how Sledgehammer did it. This is how they handled their featured game modes. It seems like every single week they were rotating in a different featured game mode where you get double XP, and it was often a really interesting, unique mode that they wanted to play around with that was just kind of created just for fun on the side. So like Leprechaun Hunt, for instance, or Horde Point, Relic of the Undead, Demolition, the One-Shot playlist. the throwback playlist. I could go on about this. They've had a ton of featured modes. And the nice thing about this is these modes on their own, if they were in regular playlists 100% of the time, they probably wouldn't hold a population or a big enough population. People wouldn't really play it all that often, but when you bring it in as a featured mode and it's a limited time event, people get excited for that and people actually play it. You get a solid population on those. And I think that's the right way to handle it for those modes that otherwise wouldn't maintain a population. So this is something that I feel Sledgehammer kind of took to the next level, because previous years, while they have had those featured modes every now and then, they never really took it quite to the same point that Sledgehammer took it in CoD WW2, and I hope for the future of Call of Duty they follow suit with this, and every single week we end up having a different featured mode. Moving on to the next point I have here, a couple features that I really liked in this game is the firing range as well as the 1v1 pit. I have a bit of a different view on the headquarters, we'll talk about that in a different video, but if we look at them individually, having the firing range there is awesome. It allows you to test out guns, test out attachments a little bit, just kind of mess around with things and see how things feel, which I think is great. And also that 1v1 pit I think was a great idea. It maybe wasn't implemented quite as well as it could have been, but the idea of having that 1v1 pit there, I think is great. This brings us to the next thing on the list. This is bringing in free maps for everyone. Now, of course, we have the DLC maps that you pay for. You get the DLC map packs. But in addition to that, they've been sprinkling in some completely free maps that you don't need the season pass or DLC for. It's just free for everyone. And those are really great to see. They didn't have to do that for us, and they did it anyway. So I'm talking maps like Carentan Winter, even though they already had Carentan in the game, and even though I'm not a big fan of Carentan in this game, I like the fact that they brought that in for free for everyone. Same thing goes with Shipment. I'm personally not a fan of Shipment at all. I feel like there's almost no strategy whatsoever, and it's pure just chaos, which I realize that's why a lot of people like it. But Shipment is an extremely popular map, and it was brought in post-launch completely free. Same thing goes with the headquarters map. I thought it was kind of a unique take where they added the headquarters as a multiplayer map. Now, I don't think it played well as a multiplayer map, but it was free and it was a unique idea, and it's something the community was asking about basically since the launch of the game. Another example is the sandbox map. This one is a completely new and unique and really quirky sort of map. Once again, completely free for everyone, although it does suck that Xbox and PC had to wait 30 days for that one. So overall, even though I may not like some of the maps that they added for free, I do like the fact that they were adding free content like this that they really didn't have to give us. This brings us to the next thing that was on my list. This is the Specialist Basic Training. I really wish this would have been in the game from launch because I love using Specialist. I love the ability to trade my score streaks for perks and become that sort of super soldier as long as I can keep my streak going. This one was actually pretty much game-changing for me when they added this, and I'm so happy they finally brought it into the game, because at that point the game was really starting to get stale. It was in one of those like low points. The moment Specialist was added, it completely changed up the game for me, and I'm still really enjoying it to this day. On a related note, my next point here on something that I feel they did right is the addition of the V2 rocket. I personally love Call of Duties that have that secret nuke style streak, the one that you get for going on a long gun streak. It gives the higher skilled players something to grind towards, something to really care about and work towards, and when you get one, it's a really good feeling, and everybody in the lobby gets to see it because they get blown up. Unlike in like Treyarch games, for instance, where you just get a medal that pops up on the screen that doesn't really mean anything. So once again, this is something that we have seen in previous Call of Duty games before, so it's not like it's something new, but I am glad that they included it, because not every Call of Duty game does have a secret nuke style streak. And with that, that pretty much wraps up my current list that I was able to throw together for what I feel Call of Duty World War II did right. Of course, I'm sure there's a bunch of little things that I missed here and there that I probably wish I would have put into this video, but as far as things that came to my mind, that's what I have jotted down. And of course, this is where I want to pass that question off to you guys. What did you guys like about CoD World War II? What do you think they did right? Please hold back your comments for what they did wrong for the video I cover where I'm talking about what I feel they did wrong. For this comment section, let's just try and keep it on the positive side. Just let me know what you think they did right. Even if you didn't particularly like the game, try and come up with a few things that you think they did right and you think would be good additions for future Call of Duties. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.